Ready?
1 second.
It's a recording.
It's recording.
Good evening, hello, and welcome to Unforced Error. I'm not sure what episode Unforced Error it is. Maybe David knows.
36.
36. I like 36. I like some numbers and not others. Do you know what I mean?
36 is a nice number.
It's kind of like a
roundish.
It's kind of 3 and 6. They both divide into each other. It's a woman's bra size. It's the age Clint Eastwood became famous in Hollywood. So I like 36, and I'm here with David Redina, the co-founder and the brains behind Unforced Error. And we're really talking about tennis and saying the things that tennis professionals can't say out loud because they'll get arrested by the woke police.
Deported.
Yeah, deported and worse.
Yep.
Yeah, castrated.
Speaking of deported, Jim, wasn't it nice to see Boris in the cube?
Absolutely lovely. As you know, I'm a big
Great.
fan of Boris. I think he's been hard done by in terms of his court case. So
But it means that the tennis world welcome him back without judgment.
not Wimbledon though. I don't think the BBC will welcome him back. I think
he was always working for the BBC.
I think he's banned from England. He can't come back to England. So that's a real shame. You know, you're a supporter employing him.
Not forever. Is it forever?
I'm not sure how many years
Wow, that's
ban will be. It'll be longer than the Djokovic Australian Open ban.
That's a pity, huh? That's a pity.
Obviously, but yeah, always lovely to see Boris. Okay, he did wrong, but I think the punishment was far heavier than the crime was.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike Novak Djokovic, I think his ban from England will be a bit longer. But Novak Djokovic was back in this year's Australian Open, wasn't he?
And for the first time, we made the right prediction in 36 episodes. We both predicted alongside with Antonio, with our guest from last episode,
that
very Djokovic was going to come into the Australian angry and nothing was going to kill him.
And he was angry, wasn't he? Did you not think throughout the
tournament?
tournament?
He was there to prove a point. You guys kicked me out last time. I'm going to show you.
Definitely. He had a lot of support. There was a lot of Serbian flag waving, wasn't there? But he also had a lot of opposition too, and he had fights running battles with members of the crowd, with umpires, with people who thought he was exaggerating his injuries. Do you think he was exaggerating his injuries during the tournament?
It's another... if the injury was real, he shooed it away with his pure willpower. What do you think?
I think about Djokovic. I mean, would you wear that strapping for fun? You could feasibly wear it as ornamental. It looks good. It's a war wound, isn't it? Wearing some mummy-type Egyptian bandages on your upper thigh.
Yes.
I did say this to people who asked me during the tournaments, you know, tennis fans and mostly non-tennis fans asked my opinion because they don't know how invalid it is. But they say, who do you think will win? And I said, if Djokovic can stay 80% fit, he will win the tournament. And I think it might have been a bit like that. He was very emotional at the end.
He was.
Definitely. So
there was more happening behind the scenes than
I mean, we're now living in an age, and Djokovic has helped create this age, but he's not the only player.
No.
And there are ladies too who have helped create this, where being injured is a tactical... there are tactical injuries and there are genuine injuries.
Yeah. How could this injury help him in this tournament?
Yes, if you choose to get for it to give you hope, but there is that old saying that no one likes playing an injured opponent. You feel pressure. You should beat them. He's got strapping on that thing. He was limping in training. Yeah. I should beat this guy, and that's pressure. And he's given you an open court, and no tennis player likes playing into an open court. It's too big a gap. You know, it's an open goal. Footballers don't like shooting into an open goal because you look stupid if you miss. Yeah. So you have to choose to go, this guy is injured, that is great. I like moving players around.
And now you said
he won't like that. But an injured player, from their point of view, they've got nothing to lose. They're injured. Mm-hmm. And they've got less choices. I know I can't do that shot because my injury won't let me do that. So I'm going to concentrate on these 3 or 4 things that I can do. It reduces your choices, and choices are often why you lose a point. And you just go, well, okay, I want to keep the points short. That's a very simple strategy. Whereas if you're not injured, oh, I can beat him this way, that way, or that way. I can do this with that ball or this. And when the choice happens, you're caught between two stools. When you go for a shot, you miss it. When you're injured, it focuses your mind. And you do see some injured players have quite deep runs in tournaments, less choices, less pressure. So it can work both ways.
Yeah, case closed.
Yeah, you played injured. There was a time you were so badly injured, you were only playing one-handed backhands and you were still winning. Did you not feel at that time you were actually playing really well, partly because of the injury?
No, there's no relation there, just because I'm a much better player with a double backhander. So for me, it was about learning a bit more the slice. If I couldn't use the left hand,
But you were trying to
why
run
not
around
play?
to play the forehand, so you had a clear strategy, maybe.
No, I was actually practicing more slice than anything else. Maybe we must have had a match or two at that stage where I ran around, but no, it was more about the slice. But all that you said is true. It shows how tennis is so mental, because could work against you, could work for you. It really depends how each player talks. I'm making maybe a bad comparison, but between Djokovic winning and shooing away the injury, while Kordak almost created it, although it is unfair to say that.
Yeah, with Korda, I mean, he played so well against Medvedev, and what you said about him reminding people of Federer. He's Federer with a double-handed backhand,
True.
which is very good. And he can play a single-handed backhand. He can slice, he can volley, he can serve and volley. He's got this amazing variety. I think he's 22 now. It's time to kick on. It's time for him to really, use this. I think it was a golden opportunity. I think he was genuinely injured. I think if you injure your wrist, it's one of those injuries, maybe a leg injury, you can work around a bit, but the wrist is just so vital for doing spinny shots, for getting
Horrible.
getting the
And
angles.
he described it in the press conference that he made one move that was actually a wrong move, and that happens to all of us tennis players from amateur to pro level. You make a wrong move in sport, and you can twist something, and then suddenly you're a lot of pain and you can't move forward. And what about Tsitsipas and what he did? There he was again. And I watched all the matches from Djokovic, and Tsitsipas was the only one that truly had a different kind of belief against Djokovic. It felt that he really wanted to win, and he was there to win, but he just didn't have, better of wills there. Because what did you think about Tsitsipas tournament?
I think he had a very good tournament. I think he's been on a good run of form after a very difficult year last year. He's got this weight on his shoulders. He always looks on court often like he's left the oven on at home. He looks like a kind of hippie in a bad mood a lot of the time. He
Yes.
doesn't look a happy person. He doesn't look joyful, and he's got his dad on his back in the stands. He wants to win so much. If it was a medal for wanting to win, yeah, he'd be up there with Djokovic, which he was done. I think it was a close final. Don't be fooled by the straight sets result. I think Djokovic really wanted to win keep it short because of his injuries. But I think before the final, when they both reached the final, I think Djokovic was asked, how are you feeling about the final? And he said, well, the big question is, I don't think Stefanos has reached the Grand Slam final before, has he? The journalist said, yeah, he did. He played you in the French Open final. And Djokovic had forgotten that because
Unbelievable.
he's been in so many finals. It was a good final too. Tsitsipas was 2 sets up. And Tsitsipas was asked, Novak's forgotten he's played you in the French Open final. And he said, which I thought was quite classy, yeah, I'd forgotten that too, which was his way of saying it's not a big thing. I'm putting that to the back of my mind. It's another game. But
Yes.
I think in the French Open final, it was quite a different game because Tsitsipas in the first 2 sets was playing angled short shots, which was taking Djokovic out of the court. And Tsitsipas, although it was on clay, was putting the volley away. And that's how he was really successful. And then Djokovic adjusted his game and did well. It's good, but I mean, before the final, I thought Djokovic is going to win. It might be straight sets, it might be 4, it might be 5. he's going to win, and he did. And it's always tomorrow with Tsitsipas, Medvedev, and here we are again. Djokovic posing by the river in Australia with his 10th title. Plus ça change. It's still the same.
Medvedev did take a dream away from Djokovic once upon a time. He reached some heights, at least.
He gave him a sleepless night.
Yep.
But Djokovic has his dreams back now, doesn't he?
He does, and the best dreams. What about the women's? I was getting very excited about Rybakina because she is the kind of person that looks like a champion, has a mindset, a demeanor, a calmness, and an emotional approach, even though we know she's emotional inside, as she always states in her interviews. Oh my God, she beat 2 Grand Slam champions on the way to the final. Azarenka and, do you remember the other one?
One of your favourite players, Swiatek.
Exactly.
And that was,
In the quarters.
I think to people who follow sport, that was a bit of a surprise, but maybe less to people who follow tennis.
Yes. So I was getting excited about the fact that maybe we were finally going to get that rival that we were talking about. But then came along Sabalenka and ruined the party at the end. How was it for you to follow a little bit of this women's side?
Well, Rybakina is one of those players. I think the same was said of Bjorn Borg. When you saw Bjorn Borg in the changing room, in the locker room, after a match, you couldn't guess whether he'd won or lost. His face would be the same. And I imagine it was the same with Rybakina. She's a poker face. I really like her. I think she does some great shots. I think other players, Serena Williams, it's always a drama. Everything's an effort. Oh, boo, 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 boo. With other players, Kyrgios, it's a running battle with the crowd. But Rybakina, when we come to remember her, I'm sure in years to come, she just gets on with it. There's no fuss. There's no changing a racket before match point. She is just in business mode, swishing her ponytail, just great take back. Yeah, great. And I think, but Sabalenka, I think she's a nice girl. She was like making faces when she missed a shot. She has a sense of humour at her own expense. And it's great that she's won her first title. Rybakina has already won a title. But this is a reminder, I think, what's important about the tournament, lessons to be learned from it, is Rybakina isn't just a 9-day wonder. The Wimbledon wasn't just a one-off. And people were starting to think, is that just like every dog has its day and that was her day? No, she can play on hard courts. If she can do that at the Australian Open, she can do that at the US Open. Not sure how she'll fare on clay. That's another thing. But, I think she is in good stead for 3 of the 4 Grand Slam tournaments. And, I really like her. People also thought Swiatek was going to run away with it, with Ash Barty retired, defending champion. And Swiatek winning in the US Open, though she didn't like the balls, not her favourite tournament. People thought she was going to really dominate. But Rybakina cut her down to size, and as so often, the person who destroys the queen doesn't get the title themselves. But I'm sure she'll be in contention for more titles.
Yeah, I'm excited about Rybakina and Swiatek's rivalry. I have a feeling that Rybakina is definitely going to be there, a contender. I wonder if Sabalenka can stay, but she definitely has been knocking on the door, reaching semifinals and always losing against Swiatek. Then she beat Swiatek not long ago, and now we're going to see what happens. I was sad because I was on the side of Rybakina and Swiatek.
Yes, same here. Yeah.
And Ostapenko, by the way, as well. But
she came back, didn't she? Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
She played well, actually. She reached the quarters, I think. Yep, the tennis world of women is still quite open. Even if we have someone dominating a little bit more, it's still quite open.
It was a good final. It was a good final.
It was a really good final.
When I tuned in, I didn't tune in till the end. It seemed like Rybakina had kind of lost it a bit and was kind of just accepting defeat.
Yeah.
But then she came back nearer the end, and it was tense. And Sabalenka did really, really well. I think she kind of didn't get too nervous. She must have thought, God, am I ever going to win a Grand Slam? But she was smiling when she just missed shots. She kind of had a sense of perspective, and maybe that helped her over the line. Ons Jabeur, Unfortunately, yeah, the Great White Hope. It'd be so lovely. I think I would lump her in with Nick Kyrgios. I think that's a lot of people, tennis neutrals, would really want Nick Kyrgios and on Jabeur to win a Grand Slam. I think that'd be a very popular kind of double if they could do it. They're kind of, for different reasons, they are very popular players. Variety, unexpected.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed getting to know a little bit more of Jabber in the series Breakpoint on Netflix because it felt like she was a really real, really genuine person, didn't she?
Yeah, seems like, a normal person. She's not the
Yeah,
kind of person you see
that's
in
it.
Sainsbury's and go, my God, she's 6'3". She looks like a tennis player. So
Yeah,
yeah, she came across
she did.
very well in that series, and yeah, you could just see her variety up close. But it wasn't a great tournament for the Netflix brigade. What am I talking about with this Netflix thing? You fill in the listeners about the Netflix documentary.
Everybody that follows tennis knows about the Breakpoint. I enjoyed Breakpoint because it's very personal. What happens before and after matches, meanwhile, while they wait for their next match. And it took a close look at a few of the players. Of course, I was a bit disappointed with the players that they'd chosen. Aside from Kyrgios, I was excited only about Kyrgios. But then
So what players did they choose?
couldn't name them all, but I can name some of my favorite stories. I liked how they showed how players have it tough when they lose. They go backstage and some are crying, and
Want
some
to
of
give
them
up,
are.
don't they? Some want to, yeah, retire. I
Some
mean,
of them, yeah, like first round, that same guy that got Nadal in one first round, and then Djokovic on this first round of the Australian on last year. We're talking about last year. I mean, it's 150,000 just for the first round, and he has his whole year paid for just for winning one.
but
And
he's got to pay his coaches, his airfares, his
that's
travel.
why he needs those 150.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? This guy was 200 something in the world. I mean,
yeah.
it really shows how tough. I think my empathy for tennis players has definitely grown after these 5 episodes. And one of my favorite stories was Fritz, which is somebody I didn't really connect too much with, but his speech about he felt that he needed the injection to just play this final, and he made history by beating Nadal in the final. How about that?
Well, I think that was what was interesting about the Netflix series. I don't think it was great. I don't think it's going to turn people won't watch it casually and go, "I'm not into tennis," and then suddenly become into tennis because of it. I think bit of a shame. I agree with you. The choice of players perhaps could have been better. But the Taylor Fritz thing, it did throw up moral dilemmas. With Taylor Fritz, his dilemma was he was playing at the Indian Wells tournament, which is the tournament he went to as a kid with his dad to watch the tournament. It's his home tournament.
And his
He
dad
grew up
said
in
that he
there.
was going to win it one day.
Yeah, so great. This is a lovely dream, almost like a curse, like a fairy tale, though. He
Yeah.
gets to the final of his home tournament
Incredible.
and he's injured and he needs injections. And his fairly new coach, Paul Anacone, very famous coach, is saying, if you take these injections, this could ruin your career. Do you want to do this in this tournament? Some people think it's the fifth biggest tournament in the world. I would query that
Sure.
as a tennis.
It's an ATP 1000. That's what it is. And
Yeah.
it stands for something. I would love to win one.
So not only he's got a chance to play if he takes these injections, he's up against Rafa Nadal. And Fritz is a top player, he's a top 10 player. But it's not every day you get the chance to play in Rafa Nadal in your home tournament. So this is my question to you, David. If you were in that situation, would you have taken that injection? Because his coaches were saying no, you could miss the rest of the season. This could ruin your whole career. Would you take that to miss Grand Slams?
What I found great about that story, the whole thing, is just their conversation when they were talking about, everyone was suggesting that he didn't play, and there was something inside him that he felt that he needed to, and it ended up being a good result, and it ended up that he is still playing tennis after that.
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
ended up being a good choice. He felt it in his gut. I think most of the time, if we follow our gut, it tells us good decisions in life. Me, myself, I would need to be in that position to really know what to choose, because it really depends how deep I feel that pain and where it was and you really need to feel
Well,
it.
it's your body. You should
I
know better
do,
than your
yeah,
coach.
I don't like the idea of injections to take away the pain and play on an injured
Yeah.
thing. So, I mean, warrior spirit, it's almost like a Viking. You know, the Vikings would be injured
Yeah.
and they go to war.
He did win the tournament, and he went on to play. I think the French. Maybe you might have missed the French. He went on to play Wimbledon, and he faced Nadal again, and Nadal was injured this time, and Nadal beat him, which was but I don't think Indian Wells had a bearing on that. I don't think him taking the injections meant he lost to Nadal at Wimbledon, which I think is easily the bigger
And
tournament.
Nadal
if you
also
go for
beat
it.
him on injections, most probably because
Yeah.
of those feet that he's having.
Another moral dilemma, which Netflix brought up in the series, David, which I'm going to put to you now, is Felix Auger-Aliassime.
Yes.
Very promising player, another top 10 player like Taylor Fritz, really. And it focused on him on one episode in the French Open. He was being trained by Tony Nadal, who is Rafa Nadal's uncle and coached Rafa to about 13 French Open wins. So he coached him, and Felix got through quite a few rounds of the French Open for the first time under Tony Nadal, and then he's facing Rafa Nadal. And before the match, Tony Nadal said, well, I want Rafa to win. He's my nephew. I want him to win, even though I'm coaching Felix. And he left, I think, quite early in the match as well. So my question to you, David, is if you were Auger-Aliassime, if you were Felix, and Tony Nadal was coaching you, and he said before you playing Rafa Nadal, I want Rafa Nadal to win, how would you react? How would that affect your relationship with your coach, Tony Nadal?
If I answer as a 42-year-old man, I completely accept it immediately because I understand that if you brought up that kid since he was a little one, family is the most powerful thing on earth. So I would immediately understand it and realize that that's just the way it's going to be. Nadal is not going to be, there for much longer or forever. I still have a big career in front of me, and I can still continue being with this coach. But it can be a removal of a bit of the confidence, because if you don't have the confidence of your coach behind you, it can be very strong. And if I'm 23 or 24, or 21, like he is, or 20 even, he's young, then I think if I was that young, I wouldn't really understand it. And maybe I would have judged it a bit more. So yeah, it's a tough one. I think everyone was angry, by the way. Even Amazon was criticizing him.
Even that blonde lady presenter
Did
was
you see
saying
that?
that surely their relationship is over now.
Yeah, can you believe that?
No, I didn't know that until I saw the
that almost felt like
documentary,
an unforced error. They cannot talk like that on TV, can they? But anyway,
What do they know about tennis?
yeah,
Yes.
I was shocked by the way they expressed, because they were really angry. But I think that Nadal's uncle has the right to say the truth. But if I was in Nadal's uncle's position, I would just not say it, just not to create damage both ways. You don't need to say it to know that you know it.
Well
You know
said,
what I mean?
yes, yeah.
So what about your opinion if you were both, Aliassime and the uncle?
I think it was very honest of Tony Nadal.
Very.
And as you said, sometimes it's best not to say that. Just avoid the question, so you're not being dishonest. Just
Yeah,
avoid the
avoid it.
question.
Yeah.
Is there a slight worry maybe that you'd be fed false information by Tony Nadal, like play it to his backhand, do this shot, knowing that? But I think Nadal is so good.
That's a possibility.
You
never know.
Yeah, I think it's strange, but I totally understand Tony Nadal feeling like that. We have this thing in with football managers. You have a player who plays for a club for years and years, then they manage another club and they go back to that club, but they nearly always say, which is very bland, "Oh, I'm the manager of Everton now. I used to play for Arsenal. They're in my heart. I'll always love them, but I want to beat Arsenal. I'm the manager."
Yeah.
And you wonder often, how true is that deep down? And Tony Nadal was being very honest, I suppose. And I think very few coaches would have said that. They would have thought that,
Never
but
say
not
it.
felt that.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's a family thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really depends as well on how deep is the connection with your family. If it's a family that's gonna leave their parents in a care home, at older age, maybe the connection is not as deep as someone that will take care of their loved ones till they die.
But I think Tony Nadal is still coaching Felix, and the results, as we've seen at the Australian Open, he's yet another player. He's not the only one. He just doesn't seem to be fulfilling their potential quite.
He is not. And here we are.
Sad. He's a very talented player.
And here we are. We are at the conversation that comes to my mind many times. What are we to expect? It's coming to an end. I keep waiting for somebody to step up and start dominating tennis. Like it always happens from great era to great era. But almost feels like we have a little bit of a vacuum, even though we have so many promising young dads.
Well, we've seen this often, haven't we? Medvedev, Ruud, Felix. Yeah, they
Alcaraz also is a bit on a downer at the moment, and with injuries and stuff, which creates
injuries,
a little bit of a question, isn't it? And he lost a few good matches after. Although your theory of 1 year after winning your Grand,
give him some slack.
Give
him
him some time, exactly. So maybe that works.
And it is tricky because the Netflix documentary showed us, how intimidating it is to play Nadal, which I didn't realize.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see him? Oh, I love that moment.
I was scared. I was scared myself.
I love that
but they
moment.
showed, which I love, in the tunnel before matches. How have we not seen this? Because they do show
I
this
know.
stuff. Ruud comes out for his match and he's in the tunnel waiting, and they're coming out and they're waiting. They're the first there. Nadal's always the second there, and Nadal is running up the corridor, within touching distance of them, and kind of like breathing heavily, and he's like a minotaur. Let this rodeo horse out. And, Felix took it very well and played very well and pushed Nadal very close.
Yes.
And Ruud just looked a bit scared, and I don't blame him. What can you do?
Man,
but it was physically intimidating. Do you think that's a deliberate, I want to get in their mind, or do you think he really, if the tunnel was empty, he would still be doing those exercises?
Okay, first thing I want to say about that is that tunnel is small. And the intimidation factor on Nadal when he comes around, you can feel it through the camera. The whole room tunnel changes the atmosphere when he comes in.
There's no laughing and joking, is there?
It's like a bull has entered and everybody has to run away.
Yeah.
He has so much intensity in that moment, and I'm certain that this is in his DNA. That's how it is. Intimidation, from the old days,
Yeah, it didn't work against Felix because Felix started very well against Nadal.
That's true.
But it
works against. It worked.
Maybe even if he'd just come out and just like shake,
and it would be the same.
Maybe.
But I felt the pressure, man. I was kind of almost sweating just watching. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was such a contrast to Nick Kyrgios in the series, who before his first match against Liam Brody, they were kind of laughing and joking with each other. So not every player, but Nick Kyrgios.
Nick is very casual about things, isn't he? Yeah, he's very casual. He doesn't take the sport as serious as anybody else. So I like that about him. He was ashamed that he couldn't play.
I think the Netflix thing, I do think it was good, but not great. I think the choice of players, it would have been very interesting to have Medvedev, especially around this time with the kind of the Russian boycott going on. And I'm hoping the Netflix series will really take off the next series,
and
which features Wimbledon
well.
and Kyrgios and the Russian ban. And I hope they feature on that and just don't whitewash over it.
Yes, one thing that comes to mind, they're going to film the players that allow them to film. Yes, some players I'm sure said no. But it would have definitely been a different level if it was stories like Djokovic during the time of the Australia. Almost
yes, that would have been fascinating.
Dramatic. Yeah. And other players, that we are more into.
Ash Barty,
even Swiatek would be nice because there's definitely some
we don't know
strange camp about Swiatek in a way.
Tsitsipas with his dad,
Tsitsipas with his dad, how cool would that be?
What's going on there? I do wonder if they were pandering to the American audience a bit with the choice of Taylor Fritz, and the Indian Wells tournament as well. Yeah, he's a nice guy.
They couldn't know that he was going to win it.
Berrettini, one thing I did think when watching him was, I think he would have more success if he tidied his room up more.
Oh my God.
It was a complete mess, and
that was just horrible.
I think his head would be clearer if he tidied up more,
yes.
and he wouldn't lose to Andy Murray in the Australian Open. So that's my one tip if I was Berrettini's coach. 5 minutes each night.
So easy.
Tidy the big things, leave the small things.
There was one thing that was the same exact thing happened in almost every episode of The Men. All of them. Every time they talked about facing Djokovic, they said I cannot beat the best. And they
Yeah.
cannot be the best. They all said the same thing in different ways. I might be the worst tennis player on planet Earth, but if I would have a tournament where Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer, or one of them would be in, and I would participate in it, I would not want to win it without beating them on the way. That is not their mentality. And that's why they're losing. It's one of the reasons. You know, they see these gods up above, and you're okay to lose to them because it's justifiable.
I would agree with you, but I did watch Djokovic versus Rublev in the Australian Open, and Rublev was playing very well in the tournament.
Not only
He looked like
Rublev,
a world beater,
yes,
and Djokovic absolutely destroyed him.
yes,
Took him to school.
it's true. And Rublev really surprised me in a good way. He was fighting for it, even though he was cursing, but
He knew he was beaten.
he knew he was beaten.
He definitely, and he's just like, oh my God, what more do I have to do? Do I have to grow a pair of wings or get some horses' legs?
Yeah. Now
or,
you're talking about something different, which is the level of Djokovic's tennis.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it at the moment. Whoever you are right now, I don't think anyone could beat Djokovic. If Djokovic does not want to lose, he will not lose. He's the perfect tennis player.
How can someone paint the lines so much?
All the time.
A good serve, a good first serve.
Amazing
and he will
serve.
Get it
How
back
many aces?
on the baseline.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Just astonishing.
And he's not even known as a server.
No, he switched his serve, and now his serve is like a Federer serve almost.
But his ground strokes are still so good that we see his serve.
He doesn't
as
even
his
need a
weakest
serve.
Part of his game.
I know. And his return of serve has always been the best. I mean, the guy is perfect on the left, on the right, everywhere. Maybe the smash is the only weakness. And even then, he's hitting them. Like one of the commentators said, you could put two players against Djokovic, he would still win.
But on clay, it is different. We'll be saying the same thing about Nadal. We'll be substituting the words if there was another episode. We'd be saying, yeah, the same. Nadal's just got Djokovic's number most of the time on the clay. So they're 22 each, aren't they? So I still think it's likely Nadal, unless he eats a poisoned baguette in Paris, I think he'll jump ahead.
You
French
still believe
Open.
in Nadal, that French Open?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he becomes a different beast there, does he not?
He's got time, hasn't he? I know he's injured, but he's got time to come back.
I think we could have in the French Open this year the ending of Nadal, the true final fight between Djokovic and Nadal at the end of the...
The final cliff top fights.
Oh,
between
thank
them.
you for making it so much better. Sounds so much better. That's exactly it. And then Nadal ends his career.
Because some dreams, they do seem to, especially when they are recurring, some settings, some places that seem to exist on that dream world where we go back to, they seem to exist somewhere in the metaphysical world. Even if they exist only as a product of our brain firing neurons, they seem to exist. Don't you ever felt that some of the places where you dream are real?
You know what Netflix Breakpoint made me feel? Of course, we are always going to judge more when we're not living in the skin of the one judged. When you're living on it, you kind of start understanding why. And that's, I guess, part of growing up as a person. We all grow up and we start understanding more things than we used to judge. Breakpoint definitely brought something good. And I think Breakpoint was not made to get new fans for tennis. It was made for the true fans of tennis to really learn a little bit more. And so by watching that, it made me have new thoughts that I had maybe before, but I didn't look at it the way that I look after watching them so up and close, which is we are very critical to all these players that are coming in this generation, yes? We want heroes, we want people with guts, we want people with courage that believe in themselves, that can do it. But it gave me a thought, it might be exactly what's happening with the whole society, isn't it? We're becoming snowflakes, we're becoming fragile, everything is given so easy compared to the past. And does not mean life is easier. What I mean to say is technology, gadgets, lack of human interaction, more screen time, different upbringing, different times. So we're in a stage of our human evolution that now everything it matters. Everyone has the right to feel the way they feel, even if it's the most ridiculous thing on earth. All you have to do is say that you're
Yes.
suffering by it. So the world is now almost trying to teach people that we are not to adapt to the world should adapt to us and accept us for who we are. And that has removed some element of fighting spirit, of power, of belief that maybe these kids are not having it, and that's why the results are kind of disappearing. Medvedev had a little bit of that, maybe came from a more rougher education, or a country that is known for men being rough, strong,
Well, it's
power.
probably in the genes, isn't it? I mean,
It's in the genes, thank
the
you.
Russians ate their cats and
Yes,
dogs
yes.
when the Germans were at their gates in the Second
Exactly.
World War. I
Yes.
mean,
Look at Djokovic, coming from a war
well,
country as well.
absolutely.
You see,
I mean, yeah.
So my question to you is, do you agree that maybe what's happening here, or what could be happening, maybe it's more difficult now? And let's not forget another thing, the media. And the reason why I remember this is because of golf. You were talking about golf. 17 years old, you reach, or 16 or something, she reached the semis of the US Open for the first time. I mean, they change who you are. Because if you're not really strong with who you are at that time, with all the media and attention, the pressure it's brutal. It destroys you. You become famous. You become part of magazines, and the focus is on you. It's much more than in the 90s, much more than in the 70s, much more than in the 60s. Does that make a difference in your opinion? Do you think maybe that could be the reason why players are having a hard time to rise to the top? They just don't have it in them?
Well, I mean, people who rose to the top, say in the 70s, yeah, there was less social media, for instance. Yeah,
Excuse me?
the media spotlight. We didn't know all about Jimmy Connor's social life or private life
Yes.
then, but we don't now. I mean, very little comes out about tennis players' private lives.
That's
It
true.
seems to be more closely
But
guarded.
but they are
Kyrgios,
surrounded.
maybe.
But they are surrounded by the media.
They are, but there is an element of choice there, I suppose. Goff has amazing sponsorship deals.
Yes.
So does Osaka.
Crazy.
Might not be entirely her choice. It might be her parents. They must give some consent for an 18-year-old to be big. Definitely there is that snowflake element. I think some tennis players and sports stars have said they've spent quite a lot of time playing computer games the night before a match. It's not the best preparation for it. But it's quite hard to come up with a hard and fast rule. You got Djokovic, who was playing on courts which were reduced to rubble because of the bombing on the Yugoslavian area when he was a kid growing up.
Yeah.
He had a very tough upbringing, which makes you tougher, mentally
There
tougher
you go.
to climb. But then you had Federer, who had a very upper middle class upbringing. McEnroe came from quite a privileged background. Bjorn Borg. So you do have the two extremes. It's quite hard to kind of generalize about tennis. Money and great tennis tuition can count for a lot in tennis, but then so can the grit of having to really work for it, having to travel miles to find a good tennis coach, having to get up before school to squeeze in that extra tennis practice. Yeah, in terms of overtaking Djokovic and people like that, snowflake generation. Yeah, I think we are less tough. Hey, the world's changing. Maybe we should be kind of thankful we're a snowflake generation, because look at what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. And if we're not a snowflake generation, that's a sign that which things are going a bit wrong.
Yes, we cannot generalize, like you said. There are lots of factors to shape what is going on with the tennis world. And this is just one more example. You probably know this better than I do. It felt like the eras before, we had a lot of players that were great and they were achieving greatness. Whereas now we have a lot of great players and not achieving greatness. We had so many names in the 90s and the 80s. Boris Becker was winning Grand Slams. Sampras was winning Grand Slams. Agassi was winning Grand Slams. And a few others, isn't it? And in your era as well. Sometimes it feels that in this era, in the last 20, 30 years, because of these three, we did not have that variety of lots of success from lots of players other than Murray and Wawrinka winning a few.
Well, I mean, what's interesting about comparing different eras and generations is Djokovic and Nadal and Federer stayed at the top of the game for so long.
Yeah.
So why didn't players from the past do that? Why didn't Borg and McEnroe carry on, and Sampras? Why were they not winning Grand Slams in their mid-30s?
Life had more than just tennis for them, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at Borg, he was burned out by the time he was
Yeah.
25 and retired. Why was he burned out? Because in his day, he would actually catch flights. He would get on an aeroplane and he would be on board an aeroplane with people going on holiday to Spain. He'd be on the same flight. Whereas nowadays, the rewards are so much greater, the management's so much better. Federer wouldn't be on your aeroplane going for a holiday to Majorca.
No.
He has his own private plane. They
Yep.
weren't used to Bjorn Borg's level of stardom. He was like the Elvis of his time in terms of tennis. He was a superstar, and he paved the way for people like to have private jets, like so they could play on longer. It's more enjoyable. With McEnroe, where he went off balls, he was playing doubles as well as singles. He was getting burned out from that. His choice, his fault. But also he had kids. He took a break from the game. His wife got pregnant again, and he couldn't juggle that. He couldn't take a break. Whereas Djokovic, Nadal, they've had breaks from the game enforced by injuries, and they've come back still strong, and they've had kids,
And
they're
still
still
came
at
back.
the top.
Yeah.
So they're juggling this. They are the anti-snowflake generation. They've shown less snowflakiness than people from Borg's and McEnroe's very tough era. So
It does make sense because it adds all to it. I mean, the players are getting so much more money these days. The best
yeah,
really become economically self-sufficient.
they still
to a
play
level.
as much tennis. You know, they're still playing these
They do.
exhibition matches and moaning about we've got too much tennis, but they're still playing exhibition match. But I think the key thing with Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal is they just love tennis. Whereas Sampras,
Incredible.
you know, obviously he really liked it, but he didn't have that ingrained love of sleeping, dreaming,
No.
eating. To quote Netflix, shitting it.
Yes. Same as Agassi. He hated tennis,
yeah.
so he said, which I don't believe, but he did say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a fair conclusion, even though it's not explanation of anything, is that in any era, there's always a possibility for someone to come along and do something special. And I guess we're waiting. So yeah, thank you very much for the insights. That's really good, Jim. Now, I'm very curious about...
Can we just mention Azarenka's sunglasses while I remember it?
Go for it.
What was going on at press conferences? She was wearing these, Victoria Azarenka, she was wearing these massive aviator sunglasses like she was a child starring in the Top Gun movie. What was all that about? Someone beating her up in between matches? I mean, why was she looked ridiculous.
She was using sunglasses in every single interview on the press
She
conference.
really needed them. Why wasn't she wearing them during
She
matches?
reminded me of like a UFC, someone that is, having an interview before a fight or something.
Or after a fight with black
Yeah,
eyes.
or after a fight, yes. It was a weird, wasn't it? I don't... Azarenka is a very
I've
interesting
really gone off
character.
her, actually. Not just because of the sunglasses, but she makes such a meal of each match.
Yeah,
too.
do you know it's funny? It could have been an inside joke. Somebody made a bet with her and said,
Yeah,
if you lose, you're
maybe,
going to
yeah.
wear sunglasses every press conference.
Yeah.
And then she went
She
for
was
it.
winning for quite a while, wasn't she?
She
So,
was,
yeah.
I was starting to believe again, Jim.
Yeah, she didn't seem happy in her own skin, though.
Unfortunately, no, she didn't. Yeah, what a shame. But hey, and here we are at the peak, at the end of the mountain. Now we jump and we see what happens after. Jim, what is the big news of the day? Do you want to share with us?
I do, and I don't want to share with us. The sad news is this will be my last ever UFE. I've got so many demands, unlike Djokovic, Federer and Nadal. I find it hard to juggle parenthood with doing this because I like to research it. I like to not just turn up, but actually put some work in before the episode.
You always did.
I'm not a professional tennis player, you might have guessed. So it's time I feel that I've been repeating myself a bit too much. I don't want it to get stale, like what some commentators are going to say on Eurosport and Amazon Prime before they say it. So I don't want to get too far down that road, and I just want to quit while I've really had a great time with a good friend. Trying to give a different tennis to angle, trying to give the armchair enthusiasts angle, the kind of local tennis players angle to the great matches that we see at all hours on our TV screens.
Yes, it's so true. I was thinking about this timing of stopping our show. Finally, by the way, people are going to get rid of us, because I still wonder if we still have anyone listening at this stage. I mean, 36 episodes is too much.
36, yeah.
If at least we were good at what we do. But,
Well, let us know if anyone is still listening. Leave a comments on the podcasts on
yes.
YouTube or Anchor or whatever. Let us know. It's always good to get feedback.
Of course, we had so much feedback. I think we had one person, one imaginary person on our YouTube channel
Best type of
sending
person.
very interesting comments.
Are you referring to Shangri Larson?
Probably.
On YouTube. What was with that guy?
Oh, man. Guys, if anyone knows, we'll pay 10 quid to whoever discovers who was a true identity of this.
Absolutely. It's like the figure who shot JFK. I want to know who it is.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this ending of our show. Almost like fits so well, because isn't it poetic that we are almost stopping at the end of Federer's career? That's a good one to think about.
I don't think it's a total coincidence.
It's not
really.
a total coincidence.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
A bit of the fun has gone out. It's still interesting.
Yes.
And same with Kyrgios not playing in the Australian Open. I felt that was a similar thing.
Yeah.
There's the expectations.
Definitely.
We need these stars, don't we?
And there's another good one here. We are almost ending at the end of an era as well. It feels like Nadal is almost at the end. Federer is definitely gone. And now we almost have, because we've been talking about this since episode 1. Who is the best of them all? And now we're almost at the point that Djokovic will be the guy. And we almost know it.
We still don't
have
know,
Nadal,
do we?
Nadal,
he could win the French
still
Open.
Around.
Nadal,
Only Nadal can ruin the party of Djokovic,
Yeah.
because nobody else can.
Will Djokovic play in the US Open as well? Is he allowed back into the US Open?
No, not yet.
So that's another chance for Nadal.
It is, yes.
Or even if Nadal doesn't win it, it's Djokovic
So
is going to
it's
close
still
the
out
gap
in the
there.
Open.
It is, yeah.
Exactly.
But it's nice to end on a cliffhanger, isn't it?
It's great. I invite you, Jim.
They've outlasted us, haven't they?
They have outlasted
We didn't
us.
think that would
Can you
happen,
believe
did
that?
we, when we started it?
No, we didn't. I thought it was going to be forever. In about 40 years, when we're at the end of our lives, Jim, we're going to sit down and do one final episode. And we will know who is the best of all time. And I will finally admit that after all this, in my 70s, I will be grunting and complaining and throwing rackets on the floor and doing all those things that I criticized during these 36 episodes.
Well, let's do it. Yeah, let's have one final episode when we know for sure.
We know.
So this is actually the penultimate episode, isn't it? But
one day, like the last. And by the way, we are ending on an even note. Do you like that? 36?
I think it's better than 37.
37 sucks.
35, never liked 35.
No.
So,
38 is good.
Yeah, so we could do two more episodes.
We will do 2 in the same day.
Like they end a kind of franchise film by like having a final 2 Lord of the Rings films.
Yes.
Rather than just one.
Dun, dun, dun.
So we could do part 1.
Exactly.
And part 2.
And so, we can say to our whoever is still listening, stay tuned. In a few years' time, maybe at the end of our lives, we will come back to tell you the truth.
Yes, we will. So do kind of still go on the episodes to see if there's any more things.
I advise our listeners to go check once a year. Just check the podcast.
We
did a few, didn't we?
Healthy numbers. Yeah.
I don't know how they stayed. I would have gone if I would. I don't understand.
It might have been the Russians or the Chinese just monitoring
something very interesting.
But I would like to say thank you, David, for all your expertise in putting this together, your technical knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
your enthusiasm, and your companionship. It's nice to do
Absolutely.
it eyeball to eyeball, face to face,
Yes.
with a friend. I'm not sure if all the commentators out there are friends.
It's
Hey, it's
true.
great for a bit of spikiness, having Greg and Tim disagreeing, but it's I hope our disagreements have been friendly ones,
Mm-hmm.
and we respect each other's views. I certainly respect yours. So thank you for
Yeah.
thank you for all the hard work. It's been a lot of hard work for you editing it
Yes.
and putting it together, and I think it was worth it. It's something I'll look back on with real pride.
Every experience of life is interesting, and this one was also very, very nice. Thanks for your kind words. I also thank you for your quality as a talker and your homework doing, because I never did mine. And your
You didn't need to. You kind of you had to.
I had
You
you.
watched so many matches.
I didn't need to, because I had you.
Oh yeah,
And
well,
there it is,
yeah, complementing each other
Yep, good stuff.
like a doubles partnership.
Like a doubles partnership.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we should high five now to end it. Can you hear this? We do this.
Hey!
That was a good smack. It was a smacker.
It was really good. I enjoyed myself a lot because it's fun to talk about tennis. And let's remember one final note, at least, how it started and why it started. We talked a lot about tennis and we decided, hey, why don't we just record our terrible conversations and put it out there for people to listen?
Well, it should be like a conversation down the pub. I think that's my
Yep.
criticism of the Eurosport. I mean, why
Yes.
dress up in a suit and tie
True.
and be sat behind a desk
Mm-hmm.
under bright lights? We do it in the
We
dark.
do in the dark. So much nicer.
So I hope it's
Pleasant.
it's been a bit different, a bit more like a kind of late night conversation in a dormitory, or keep informal. You can probably hear us eating cashew nuts,
Yep.
clinking rum and cokes.
Mm-hmm. Farting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
And let's not forget to thank, finally, our guests.
yeah, I haven't forgotten them. I think they really added something to it.
Yeah.
So many good guests.
Yep.
They're not here with us tonight, but they're here with us in spirit,
Yes.
and really made the show what it was. I think you couldn't just have Djokovic playing Nadal every week.
Yeah.
You have to have that supporting cast,
Yes.
producing great matches along the
yeah.
way.
And do we do like the players and end up thanking our fans at the end?
I just hope it gave
Guys,
people. I hope it
this is
gave people
not
a
good.
chuckle and was was a bit thought provoking.
I know one at least one. At least we have one.
and
She always liked it.
and she was on the show too.
was on the show
so
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
big respect to her. She was a great guest. But I think one of the reasons I'm giving up is maybe to free up a bit more time to play tennis, which is what the
good.
whole podcast was about.
Yes.
Our love of tennis, and it's great talking about it. Don't get me wrong, but there's no substitute for getting out and playing tennis.
No
When I was a kid,
substitute.
there was a program shown in the summer holidays which was called Why Don't You? And the idea of the program was, why don't you stop watching TV and go out and do something more interesting
Yes.
instead? So maybe we should end with that message. Pick up your racket and go out and play.
Yep. Kick some ass. Thank you, Jim, and see you again another day.
On the other side.
Yep.
Since I was a young boy, I played with a small yellow ball. The red ball was too hard, the white ball would not do at all. Oh, there's nothing quite like it, emptying balls from a can. I've watched other people, I think I can play like they can. Play like they can. The hiss of the ring pull as you open a new tin of balls. nothing quite like it, nothing quite like it at all. Nothing quite like it. Up or down, it's time to spin. Make the ball dance and sing. Would you like a game of tennis, dear? First on court every morning, crack serve and the seagulls disperse. Name a time and a rocker. Would you like to get knocked up first? Oh, there's nothing quite like it, emptying balls from a can. Watched other people, I think I can play like they can. Play like they can. Up or down, it's time to spin. Play the ball, dance and sing. Would you like a game of tennis, dear? Would you like a game of tennis, dear? Oh, there's nothing quite like it, emptying balls from a can.